Sibilance, a story of the voice I tried to kill. What follows is mostly true. The rest is shaped to show you how it felt. By Parker Holliday. For the versions of me who lived this. My child self who was screaming but no one could hear. My young adult self who carried grief as if she was only created to bear its overwhelming weight. My current self who's still trying to learn how to build something gentle from the ruins of what could have been. For the boy who doesn't flinch. The boy who reminded me that I'm alive without needing to hurt to prove it. The boy who calls me kind even when the world gave me every reason not to be. The boy who loves me like he was created for it. My impossible boy. For the ones who didn't have faith in me, this is all in spite of you. This is what survival looks like without your permission. Need to know definitions. Borderline personality disorder. A personality disorder characterized by severe mood swings, impulsive behavior, intense fears of abandonment, paranoid thoughts and unstable relationships, higher risk of suicide and self-destructive behavior, mostly caused by childhood abuse and trauma, as up to 70% of people with this disorder have experienced sexual, emotional, or physical abuse as a child. Bipolar disorder. A chronic mood disorder that causes intense shifts in mood, energy levels, and behavior. Manic episodes are the main sign of this condition, and most have depressive episodes as well. No known exact cause, but is considered one of the most heritable psychiatric conditions. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD. Closely related to PTSD and borderline personality disorder, results from exposure to a traumatic event or series of events of an extremely threatening nature. Core symptoms include hyper-awareness of danger, flashbacks, feelings of shame or guilt, difficulty regulating emotions. Major depressive disorder. Symptoms can range from mild to severe, but typically last most of the day and nearly every day for 2 weeks or more. Characterized by sadness, emptiness, hopelessness, loss of interest in things that used to bring joy, feeling worthless, thoughts of death or suicide. Can be caused by an imbalance in neurotransmitters, childhood development associated with trauma or abuse, or stressful life events. Generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. Main symptom is excessive worry about everyday things, but can be accompanied by restlessness, feeling on edge or irritable, heart palpitations, shortness of breath. No known exact cause, but likely involves a mix of how your brain manages worry and stress, genetics, and life experiences. Act 1. The familiar voice. It doesn't begin with an alarm clock, not anymore. I've stopped setting them, stopped pretending that time has any real grip on me. What difference does it make if I get up at 7 a.m. or 2 p.m., when every day feels like the same looping hallucination? The only constant, the only true marker of time, is the voice. It's always there when I surface from sleep, if you can even call what I do sleeping. It's more like falling into a deep, bruised silence and hoping I don't dream. Most nights I don't, but sometimes I do. And in those dreams, the voice grows teeth, rows of teeth, jagged and yellowed, jutting from a mouth that shouldn't exist. The voice becomes a shape there, not a person, not an animal, but a crawling mass of an almost face with eyes that open where they shouldn't and a jaw that stretches too wide. It slithers through my subconscious like oil through water, black and slick, whispering things I can't unhear. In one dream, the voice sat on my chest and peeled back its own skin, layer by layer, until all that remained was... This day, though, I lie still, limbs heavy with dread, eyes crusted from another night of half crying into my pillow and pretending I wasn't. My body feels foreign, like a coat I never chose to wear. And before I even open my eyes, I feel it, the shift in the air, that crawling stillness. Don't bother. You won't be missed. The voice is always calm, but it hisses, each word slipping out like steam from a cracked pipe. It doesn't sound male or female. It doesn't need to. What unsettles me most is how close it sounds to me. Not the voice I use when I speak out loud, but the one I hear in my own head, flattened, echoing, slightly wrong. Sometimes it sounds more like me than I do, familiar but warped, like a lullaby I used to know, now hummed out of tune. I used to try to tell therapists about it, not in dramatic terms, but cautiously and vaguely. I'd call them intrusive thoughts, the kind that creep in without knocking and settle like dust on a bookshelf that goes unnoticed at first until everything feels coated in it. One therapist nodded slowly, then scribbled, "Schizoaffective disorder" on my chart. That was in 2020. I carried that diagnosis like a curse for 3 years, a label that didn't quite fit but stuck to me anyway. It never felt true, not really. In 2023, after everything fell apart and I ended up in an inpatient facility, someone else finally said what I'd known deep down. That wasn't the right name for it. Borderline personality disorder. I was given more diagnoses, disorders like weather patterns, storms I'm told to track and brace for. Bipolar 1, complex PTSD, major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety, a mess of invisible wounds they gave titles to, hoping they'd make sense of me. But no amount of titles capture the way it feels to walk around with something else inside you. Because they still think it's just thoughts. No one seems to understand that this thing has tone, personality, intent, that it waits, poised for the precise moment my chest tightens and my will thins to whisper the one thing that will gut me. It doesn't feel like a passing idea. It feels like a presence, like something that's always stalking me, always listening, always sharpening its words like knives. Some days I am rage, shaking hands, thoughts like shattered glass desperate for a target, even if that target is my own skin. Other days I'm the echo of someone who used to laugh without effort. I move through the world like fog on a mirror, present, but never meant to stay. People talk to me, and I nod and smile and answer questions with practiced ease, but no one notices that I'm bleeding somewhere they can't see. Through it all, the voice. Sometimes it's content to let me suffer in silence. Other times it speaks with surgical precision. No one will ever stay. They're just waiting for the moment you snap. You're not healing. You're rotting slower. Do it. Carve into your skin just to feel something, just to remind yourself that you are, unfortunately, still alive. It knows me better than anyone ever has. It knows where I keep the blades, and how long I hesitate on bridges when I cross them, and the names I called myself when I was 10 and first learned what broken meant. It never forgets. Last night something changed. It was late, past the hour where sleep still felt possible, too early for bird song or morning light. I was lying in bed, eyes open, trying not to count the cracks in the ceiling. The air felt wrong, dense. Then it spoke, but not in my head. The voice came from the corner of the room. I froze. I didn't even blink. Every hair on my body stood up like a forest sensing fire. You let them in. You let them see. Now they'll leave like they always do. Everything you hate about yourself, they'll hate louder. It was the same voice, same sick rhythm, but it didn't echo in my skull like usual. It came from outside, like someone or something had peeled it from the inside of my brain and stitched it into the air itself. I turned my head toward the sound, slowly, not sure I wanted to know, and I saw it. No shape, not really, just a ripple in the dark, a flicker of movement that didn't belong, a shadow that hadn't been cast by anything. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. I just lay there, locked in some primal silence, staring at the thing that stared back. Then I turned on the lamp. Nothing, just the empty room. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And now it felt closer. The voice no longer needs the privacy of my mind to torment me. It's found a way to wear skin made of shadow. It escaped the cage that was meant to be locked forever. Act 2. The Watching Hour. The light didn't save me. It never does. Light is just a story we tell ourselves to feel safer in the dark, a cheap illusion that pushes back only so far before the dark pushes back harder. I turned on the lamp that night like it was an anchor of safety, like something bright and man-made could undo what I'd seen. But it didn't. It couldn't. I don't see it full on. Not yet, not clearly, but I feel it. I feel it in the way something curdles in the pit of my stomach, low and instinctual, a warning passed through blood. I feel it in the weight at my back when I'm alone, like someone is just behind me, holding their breath, watching me exist. I feel it in the pressure on my chest at night, not like a panic attack. No, I know what those usually clumsy scrambles for control feel like. This is different. This is stillness personified, thick and waiting. This is the watching hour, the time after midnight but before dawn, when time feels thin and fragile, like it could split if you moved too suddenly. When the house creaks in places it never used to, when the air turns colder from within, when my skin feels too tight and limbs too loose, when silence isn't silence at all but compression, a thick, aching pressure in my ears that swells until I'm sure I'll burst. The watching hour doesn't belong to the living. It belongs to the things that linger, the things that wait for cracks in your armor, the things that live in walls or minds or both. It belongs to the breath you hold without realizing, to the darkness just beneath your bed that hadn't shifted all day until now, to the mirror you pass quickly because you're afraid it will show something you didn't invite in. The shadow doesn't speak during the watching hour. It doesn't need to. Its silence is its voice. Its presence is the sermon. It speaks through chills down my spine, through goosebumps that rise when there's no breeze, through the sense that my name is being whispered in a language I've forgotten how to hear. Sometimes I think I see it out of the corner of my eyes, just a sliver, a smear, a suggestion. I keep trying to pretend I'm okay, that I'm just tired or overworked. Maybe I skipped a dose or didn't sleep long enough or ate too little or too much. It's easier to blame my body, easier to pretend that what's happening is physical, not spiritual. But things are changing. My routines, once comforting, now feel like rituals I don't remember creating. I lock my door at night, then wake to it ajar. 3 nights ago, I set a photograph beside my bed. The photo was old, creased at the edges, the colors faded. But I looked at it sometimes just to remember that there had been a before. Last night, the photo was gone. This morning, it was in the hallway. Face down. I stood there for a long time staring at it, trying to remember if I'd moved it. If maybe I'd picked it up and wandered without knowing. If maybe this is just what forgetting looks like now. My memory used to be sharper than this. That's the worst part. The not knowing. The steady erosion of certainty. I used to be able to name what was real, even if it hurt. But now? Now I can't tell if I've misplaced something or if the shadow moved it. I can't tell if I'm forgetting or if it's rewriting. I can't tell if the voice is mine or if mine has been replaced. I wear your voice better than you do. Sometimes I'll say something out loud and immediately forget the sentence that came before it. I'll turn my head and feel like the room changed while I wasn't looking. I'll catch myself mid-thought and wonder, is this what I believe, or what it wants me to believe? It doesn't lie outright. It doesn't have to. It changes the inflection of things people say to me until their kindness sounds like mockery. It remixes the world in small, cruel ways until I'm too exhausted to question it, and then I split. I spiral. I snap. I cry. I shut down. I yell. I feel betrayed even if I can't explain why. I tell myself I'm overreacting. But the voice in my head is already celebrating. It saw an opening and took it, and by the time people tell me that wasn't how they meant it to be, it's too late. The damage has already made itself at home, and afterward I feel embarrassed, drained, like I've burned every bridge I didn't even mean to step on. I try to apologize. I try to explain. I try to tell them that it wasn't actually them, it was me. It's always me. But even as I say that, I'm not sure if I believe it. because the voice is still whispering, smug and sweet. They're just saying that so you'll calm down. They're lying to keep you manageable. If they really cared, you wouldn't feel like this all the time. No one will ever understand you as well as I do. I am you. And maybe the worst part is sometimes it makes more sense than the truth does. I second-guess everything now. The tone of a message, a delayed response, the slight shift in someone's voice when they say my name. I replay conversations like a punishment, every word on loop, dissected until it bleeds. I analyze facial expressions like they're coded warnings. I stare at the wall for hours, trying to decipher whether I'm the villain or simply the story's only narrator. It's fucking exhausting. The voice knows it's exhausting, too. It revels in the fact that I never seem to have the energy to fight back. Fighting requires a strength I can't always afford. It waits until I'm worn down and aching and hollowed out from the inside. Then it leans in and hisses that I'm the common denominator. And I'll nod. I'll agree. I'll become complicit, not because I believe it entirely, but because it's easier than fighting. Agreement feels like rest. Then it gets bolder. It slips between my thoughts, filling in the gaps with certainty I didn't ask for. Don't bother reaching out. They don't want to hear from you anyway. You've already ruined everything. You just haven't seen it yet. Stay quiet. No one wants to hear you talk. No one cares about you. You will never be worth fighting for. I cancel plans before they can be canceled on me. I smile less. I speak softer. I ghost people who said they'd never give up on me just to prove myself right when they eventually do. And maybe, more than anything, I don't want to see the look on their face when they realize how deep in this I really am. That I'm not just struggling, I'm drowning. That I really am not worth saving after all. I start pulling away from things I love, not out of protest, but out of preemptive grief, because it's easier to feel the loss in my own hands than to watch it slip through someone else's. Because losing them on purpose feels safer than helplessly watching them decay in my hands. The voice tells me it's coming, that it's inevitable. If I expect it, if I prepare, maybe it won't tear through me. Maybe it won't rip every atom out of my body. Just a few. I stop taking photos of myself. I stop singing in the shower. I start thinking about what I'd say in a goodbye letter, not because I'm planning anything, but because it comforts me to know I'd have the last word. I lower the volume of who I am. And the voice watches all of it like it's a slow, delicious unraveling. Act 3. Static between the bones. Why do you keep acting like he's coming back? Because he said he would. They always say they will, and they always don't. God, why are you so stupid? It starts in the middle, as if we've been talking for hours. Maybe I just forgot to notice. Time warps around the voice, slippery and unreliable. It makes a minute feel like a week. Makes days bleed into one another with no clear edge. There are stretches of silence I can't account for. Whole evenings where I blink and it's suddenly morning, and I don't remember if I even moved. There are stretches of sound I can't explain either. Words I hear come out of my own mouth. Conversations I don't remember starting. Laughter that doesn't feel mine. Like a tape spliced in the wrong place. My life skips. The voice used to live in my head. Now it lives in the space next to my every movement. You can't get rid of a shadow. I can turn on all the lights, burn every corner of the room with brightness, but it's still there, under my feet, clinging to my shape, shifting just out of reach. A shadow is the absence of light, and I have too many absences in me already. Even if I run, it follows. Even if I scream, it never startles. You can't get rid of a shadow. You grow used to its weight. You adapt to its shape. You start to forget you ever moved without it. I sit across from it, not because I choose to, but because it's always where I look when the room grows too quiet. It slouches in the chair like it owns it, like it's grown into something that fits here. It doesn't need to raise its voice to wound. Every word drips with familiarity. Every word feels like a trap I built myself. He's not coming back, and you know it. I shake my head, slow, mechanical. It doesn't know that. It doesn't know everything. It could be different this time. It smiles, but not because it's pleased. It smiles the way someone does before they pull the rug out from under you. The lamp flickers just once. For a brief moment, the shadow dances on the wall before it jumps to the ceiling, stretching impossibly wide, limbs bending in directions that suggest it was never meant to be human at all. The voice is now closer than I remember. It doesn't laugh, not this time. It simply shifts, repositioning itself like a blink you missed, and suddenly it's at my side, closer than breath. It watches me with my face, but not quite. The eyes are wrong. They're starved, glassy, reflecting nothing but doubt. You think you can kill me? I want to. You've wanted before. Wanting is not the same as doing. Silence settles, but not comfortably. I don't know how to argue anymore. I've forgotten the cadence of my own voice when it's not reacting to this one. Now it's pacing. Now it's moving in front of me, slowly and deliberately. He's seen you unravel. Do you really think he'll come back after that? He said he would. He said he would. He said he would. You always believe words over patterns. That's your favorite delusion. I clench my jaw. I don't respond. If I speak, it wins. If I stay silent, it wins slower. You are a mosaic of your worst moments, but mosaics are meant to be beautiful, and you are the ugliest one. I stare at the floor, trying to remember what the countless therapists told me to do. Deep breaths. Name 5 things you can see. Name 4 things you can touch. Name 3 things you can hear. Name 2 things you can smell. Name 1 thing you can taste. All I see is the shadow. All I can hear is the voice. I have a metallic taste in my mouth. I feel sick. You can try to tell him what's happening, but he will only be able to hear you. He will see your spiral. He will be cut by your sharpness. He will be disgusted by your mess. I'm not a mess. I don't think I'm a mess, but I'm not even sure I believe it. It doesn't respond. Its silence is heavier than anything it could say right now, a silence that leans in like it knows it's won. I can feel the shadow creeping into my own skin, like a sickly warmth that pools behind the eyes before tears begin, like something inside me is melting, not softening, but spoiling, becoming part of me. I can feel my hands move toward my head, my palms slamming into my head repetitively. I can feel my fingers grabbing my hair in tight clumps like I could rip every strand out right now. I want it gone. I want it to shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Shut up. You'll never be easy to love. You are the hardest thing in every universe to love. Your sharp edges and broken glass that everyone will cut themselves on. You are decay dressed as tenderness, a burden dressed as a body. Would someone easy to love make the people they love bleed? I nearly vomit. The nausea comes in waves, grief tangled with knowing. Rage, yes, but something colder, too. What does it want from me? I've given everything. I am it now. What else could it take? The silence tilts. It's heavier, more sentient. I can feel it watching me consider something I've never dared before. Maybe if I tried hard enough this time, I could reach out and choke it, wrap my fingers around whatever passes for a throat, and squeeze until it finally gasps, until it is the one trembling and small and begging for mercy. But how do you strangle a shadow? How do you kill what crawls through you instead of toward you? I ball my fists so tightly my knuckles crack. My jaw aches from being clenched too long. The scream is there, it always is, but I've swallowed it too many times, buried it beneath compliance and apology. My rage has nowhere to go but inward, and it knows that. It feeds on that. The voice thrives in the places where I've taught myself to be silent. Fuck, I want a release. I want something sharp, something real, something that proves I'm still alive. I want to drag a knife across my skin just to watch the red come through. Not for attention, not for drama, but because pain is simple, honest. Because in a world where everything feels uncertain, pain is the one thing that answers back immediately. I want to hurt because it feels like the only thing I can control. But I don't. I won't. I will not cut. It's not out of peace. It's out of exhaustion. It's out of the tiny splintered part of me that still wants to believe this can get better. That maybe survival doesn't always have to feel like punishment. I lie back on my bed. I imagine sinking. I imagine vanishing. I imagine how quiet and beautiful the world would be without me in it. But something small suddenly takes over. It takes me by surprise. It feels ridiculous. A breath of fresh air. A memory of love that isn't poisoned yet, that refuses to be poisoned. A thought that isn't narrated by that voice. Just mine. Really mine. I hold on to it just long enough to get through the next second, and the next, and the next. The shadow is seething. It swells in the room, pressing against the air, trying to suffocate me with its fury. It's so angry I'm still here. It hates to feel the light. My phone buzzes from my side table. I don't open it, but I see the message preview flash across the screen. From him. Just a reminder, I'm glad you're here. I love you. The words slice clean through the static between the bones. They pulse like a heartbeat. They shine like a lighthouse in the middle of a storm. Not a cure, not a miracle, but something to look toward. Something real. A real reason to stay. A real reason that isn't pain. Good. Let it be angry. Act 4. Refractions. It doesn't start with clarity. It starts with a tension in the ribs that doesn't collapse. Not light, not breath, not some cinematic moment of realization. Just pressure. Just presence. I don't know what changed. I only know that something did. Maybe it's exhaustion turned inside out. Maybe it's grief that finally burned too hot to smother. Maybe I've been pushed to the edge so many times, the ledge started pushing back. It got tired of holding my weight, of watching me teeter, of hearing me whisper that today is not the day, like a prayer to a God I never fully believed in. Maybe it's not me that's breaking anymore. Maybe it's the fall that's finally flinching. I sit up slower than usual. The shadow is already there, of course, waiting. It doesn't pace this time. It doesn't try to make itself seem bigger. It's still, coiled, like it's conserving its venom for the right moment. There's something hungrier in this silence, though, an alertness behind the eyes. It knows I've shifted, and it's trying to decide whether to strike or observe. Its form wavers at the edges, not deciding what shape to take today. Or maybe it's fading, I can't tell. But the eyes are clear, too clear, as if it's been rehearsing this scene longer than I've been alive. A star exploded just so it could have this precise moment. I don't move at first, I just study it. Not like prey studies a predator, but something like trying to confirm whether the monster under the bed is real or just a memory wearing fangs. The air in the room feels suspended. Even the dust has paused to watch. My limbs ache with the weight of not reacting. It's different this time. Not louder, not more monstrous, just sure of itself. It has already decided how this ends, but maybe I've already decided how this ends too. I just sit there, bones humming, chest tight with something that isn't fear exactly. Not anymore. It's something else, something quieter, warmer, not strength, but the memory of it. Not peace yet, but the pulse of something that might become peace if I let it. I want to dare myself to believe I deserve to feel something soft that doesn't rot me from the inside out. Maybe I've always deserved love. Not the kind I begged for, not the kind I bled to keep. Not the kind that asked me to shrink just to be held, but something quieter, something with open hands and no demands. Maybe I've always deserved the kind of love that doesn't twist itself into ultimatums, the kind that doesn't flinch when I shake, The kind that waits patiently, like a sunbeam across the floor, warm just because it is, not because it wants anything back. Maybe I was never too much. Maybe I was just too tender for a world that rewarded cruelty. Maybe survival made me brutal, but healing could make me gentle. And maybe that's what it fears most. So I keep my gaze steady. That surprises it. I can tell that unnerves it more than any scream ever could. Usually by now I've folded in on myself, apologized without words, accepted the punishment. The shadow tilts its head with a jerking motion of a marionette whose strings have been pulled by an unseen hand. The angle is wrong, too far, too fast. The neck creaks in a way I can feel in my own spine, a splintering pressure. It holds the pose for a beat too long, like it's savoring the discomfort it knows it could cause, like it's listening to something I can't hear, something crawling just beneath the surface of the silence. Its joints don't seem connected. There's a delay between its movements and their meaning, wearing me as a blueprint but assembling the pieces wrong on purpose. Cruelly, deliberately, just human enough to be recognizable, just wrong enough to make my stomach turn. And those eyes, unblinking, too wide, too bright in the places where a shadow shouldn't gleam. They don't search. They read thoughts I haven't even had yet to bury like a landmine in my memory. You're a waste of time, waste of space. What are you even doing right now? I don't look away. I can't look away. It waits for me to crumble, the way I always have. It wants the breaking to look like surrender. It wants collapse to feel like fate. It wants me to want it. But I just sit here, heart beating in a rhythm I haven't felt in a long time, my actual heartbeat with the steady knock of persistence. There is no version of you anyone will ever keep choosing. I nod. Just once, not in agreement, but in recognition. The kind of nod that says, I've heard this before. I've lived in the echo of it my entire life, and yet I'm still here. You've built your whole identity around being broken. What will you even be without me? You need me. You are me. You've said so yourself. Without this pain, you're nothing but hollow skin and undeserving silence. You think you can rewrite the story now? Don't be stupid. I've been the one writing it since the beginning. I've kept us alive. Don't you get it? If I go, you go too. You won't survive. You won't know who you are without this ache gnawing at your will to live. You'll vanish. You'll fade. No one else is coming. No one but me will save you. I've been your only constant. I'm the only one who's ever stayed. I'm the only one who ever will. It snarls and spits the words like a prophecy carved in stone. Something shifts again. Not in a blaze of strength, not in defiance so loud it could shatter. Just something steadier. A presence the shadow can't mimic because it wasn't born of pain. My phone buzzes next to me. A soft, familiar sound that doesn't demand. A preview lights up on the screen. Just checking in, my love. You don't have to reply. I just hope you know that I'm still here. I'm not going anymore. It recoils in confusion. Because it can't stand that someone stayed. Because it can't stand that someone didn't look away in horror, in disgust. Because it can't stand that someone wants to protect me in a way it never did. A way it never could. Quiet. That's the word that comes to mind first. Not joy. Not healing. Not triumph. Just quiet. That's what I want. The kind that fills the house after a storm when the windows are open and nothing needs to be said. The kind that lets your shoulders drop for the first time in weeks. The kind that doesn't buzz with threat. I still don't speak. I don't owe it an explanation. It doesn't deserve an explanation. I deserve the fucking silence I've never been allowed. Its form flickers again. For the first time, I wonder if it's afraid. You think your softness makes you worthy? You think you're worthy at all? You think your tears redeem you? Poor little you. You are weak. You are not tender. You are fragile. I can snap my fingers and you will break. You are not kind. You are codependent. You mistake attention for affection. You mistake obsession for love. You mistake guilt for care. You are a stain in this world that no one can scrub out. I can feel my lip tremble, not with fear, not even with sadness, but anger. How many years has it taken from me? How many moments of love did it rewrite before I could feel them fully? How many memories did it coat in shame? I was just a child, and it made me think I was unlovable. Throughout the years, it made me think it was my own fault I wasn't protected by the people who should have protected me. It convinced me that survival was shameful. It whispered that abandonment was what I deserved. Then, when people left, it was proof, not coincidence. I lost loved ones without ever getting goodbyes, just silence, absence, ghosts who never said why, and I let it narrate every departure like it was my fault. I blamed myself for being too much. I blamed myself for not being enough. It convinced me that pain was love. So I stayed in places with people who abused me and in versions of myself that were too small to contain the grief. I smiled through humiliation, laughed off discomfort, let myself be touched, talked over, taken advantage of because, somewhere along the line, it told me that being wanted by people who wanted to hurt me was the closest I ever got to being loved. It taught me that desire was currency, that love could only be transactional, that if I didn't give enough of myself, I'd be left, that bruises meant I mattered. It hollowed out my ability to tell love from hate. It told me I was lucky anyone stayed at all, and I believed it. Over and over again, I believed it. Even when it hurt, I believed it. Especially when it hurt, I believed it. Because it was the only consistent thing in my life. Because when it's the only thing whispering in the quiet night, even cruelty starts to sound like care. The voice, the shadow, never left, and in its twisted way that felt like devotion. But tonight, the quiet sounds different. Tonight the ache has an edge I recognize. Me. The part of me that wants to unlearn the script, the part of me that wants to believe the ones who stayed are staying because of who I am, not in spite of it. The part of me that remembers what gentleness feels like. The part of me that dares to believe kindness doesn't need to be earned through agony, that love, real love, doesn't sharpen its teeth when I cry, that being here in this room with this shadow doesn't mean I'm broken beyond repair. Maybe, just maybe, I was never broken. The shadow twitches, subtle but unmistakable. For the first time it looks unsure. For the first time it hesitates. Something in its shape misfires, not a flicker, but a refraction. A broken shard of light splitting through its limbs like a crack in reality. The walls even seem to be holding their breath. It knows what's coming. It knows, and it can't stop it. And you don't get to speak for me anymore. Act 5. Not gone, but known. The voice doesn't speak anymore. The shadow doesn't dance in the corner of my eye anymore. But they're still there. They linger in the pause between inhale and exhale, in the ache behind the eyes when the night grows too long. Quieter now, muted, not gone, just waiting, like they've been asked to leave and instead chose to sit in the doorway, uninvited but unwilling to vanish. That's the thing about ghosts. They don't need a body to haunt you, just space. Some mornings I still wake up with a weight I can't name. Not quite dread, not quite grief, just a heaviness, like my body remembers the wars I've lived through before my mind does. I still stay in those moments. I listen, and when the silence holds, I remind myself, quiet isn't the same as danger anymore. Absence isn't always abandonment. There are days when I reread a message 5 times, terrified I've said too much or too little, afraid I've revealed too many teeth or not enough softness. There are days I rehearse entire conversations I'll never have, apologies I'll never receive, versions of me that won't be forgiven, and I ache in ways I don't know how to explain. That old static finds its way back beneath my skin like it never left. But I've stopped trying to fight it. I don't numb it. I name it. I stand beside it. I say, I know you. Some nights I still feel it rise like tide water behind my ribs. Not a scream, not even a whisper, just a pull, slow, familiar, insidious. It doesn't have to speak anymore. The silence does all the work. I don't always win these nights. Sometimes I still forget how to reach out. I still disappear. I still beg the old ghosts to answer so I don't have to be alone. But I don't make them gods anymore. I don't mistake the ache for truth. I let it be what it is, a scar that sometimes burns. And still I wake. Still I rise. Tired, but intact. There's a strange kind of power in not running, a defiant softness in saying, I know you're still here, but I am too. Maybe that's what healing is, not purity, not immunity, but endurance, presence, the refusal to vanish. I speak more gently to myself now. Not always, not perfectly, but enough that some days I start to believe it. I tell myself I was never too much. I tell myself I was always enough. Never hard to love. I tell myself the ones who said otherwise were wrong, and the voice that echoed them just as wrong. Kindness stays longer when I let it. Love arrives like a gentle breeze now, quiet, unannounced, in the way someone folds a shirt just how I like it, in the voice that asks how I really am and waits for the honest answer, in the way someone picks up my favorite snack without me asking, in the way someone plays my favorite song simply because it reminds them of me. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm with you always. I hold the phone like it's sacred, not because it saves me, not because he saves me, but because it reminds me I don't need saving. I just need reminding. I used to believe healing meant no longer hurting, that if I still ached, I'd failed. But healing isn't the absence of pain. It's what I do when the pain shows up. It's letting it speak without letting it command. I cry more now, not just from sorrow. Sometimes a movie rips me wide open. Sometimes his words hit me like a breath after drowning. I used to brace against feeling. Now I let it through, like water carving a path through the unmovable mountain. You make me proud every day, even on the hard ones. He sends that after I've gone quiet too long. I don't always respond, but I always read it. I hold it like a secret between bones. Not because I fear he'll leave, but because I know he won't. I don't have to perform for him to stay. I don't have to bleed to be worthy. That's new. That's everything. Sometimes I still brace when kindness comes, as if it's a trick, a test, a precursor to cruelty. But I'm learning, carefully. I'm learning that some hands reach out only to hold, that some voices don't rise, that some people soften because they mean it. I don't ask if he still loves me as much anymore, not because I don't care. I'm learning to love myself in ways that don't require his answer, in the way I refill my medications on time, in the way I say I'm not okay and mean it, in the way I let myself rest without earning it. Even on the hardest days, I remember. I survived things that tried to erase me, things I never thought I would survive. There's no parade for this kind of survival, no confetti for making it out of bed. But sometimes when the world is quiet, I feel something flicker in my chest. Grace. Patience. I've started collecting those moments like proof of life, a playlist that makes me feel 17 again, a picture of a wilting flower, a story someone tells just for me, even if I've heard it before. Sometimes being chosen sounds like laughter shared twice. The light didn't die. It just bent. I used to be untouchable because I was unreachable. But I don't want that anymore. I want to be touched. I want to be seen. I want to be known. You're allowed to have joy. You're allowed to let it stay. And I want to. God, I want to. So I try. I light candles for no reason. I let my hair grow. I dance barefoot in the kitchen, badly. I get tattoos I don't explain. I let myself want things out loud, even when my voice trembles. I let myself hope for things I used to believe I wasn't allowed to want. I try to become someone I'm not scared to come home to. The ache still comes. I let it. I make space at the table. I say, I see you. I know its voice, its pitch, the way it tries to mimic love, but it doesn't own me, not anymore. There are parts of me it still clings to, and they don't shame me now, though. They don't apologize for their shape. They exist. They breathe. Raw. Real. Still healing. This life is not easy, but it's mine, and I'm still learning how to live it without asking for permission. Some days I grieve for the versions of me who never got this far, who never knew safe love, who were taught to beg for scraps and call it care. I carry them with me. They earned this softness too. Don't say you don't deserve this love. You deserve it. All of it. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. Not how to hurt less, how to receive more. I'm still haunted. I'm no longer hunted. That difference matters. The voice, the shadow, they're still here. They'll never be completely gone. They're known now, familiar, like an old friend I'm learning to forgive, like an old song I don't need to sing anymore because the melody took root in my soul. I allow them to settle. Maybe one day the love will reach even them. Maybe they'll stop shrinking from the light. Maybe they'll be comfortable enough, at least. It is a part of me. It will forever be. But I am no longer a part of it. Author's note. If you've made it this far, thank you. I don't say that lightly. This story was never meant to be clean or easy or even linear. It wasn't written for shock value. It wasn't written for resolution. It wasn't written to romanticize this pain. It was written because there was a voice in my head I couldn't silence, and I needed somewhere to put it that wasn't inside me anymore. Every word you've read, every spiral, every wound, every glint of hope barely held together with shaking hands, is a reflection of what it feels like to live with the kind of ache that wears your name like second skin. There are stretches of my life I barely remember. There are stretches of my life I can never forget. There are whole months, whole years where the only consistent thing was the voice reminding me how little I mattered. But there were also small, stubborn moments where love got through, where a message lit up my screen and reminded me I still had a heartbeat that was my own, where someone saw the mess and chose to stay anyway. Those moments are why this story doesn't end in silence. This is a story for the people who live with voices like these, for the ones terrified of their own reflections, of their own minds, for the ones who've learned to measure safety in seconds because safety was never promised. I hope this makes you feel a little less alone. I hope you know there is no shame in surviving something that tried to rewrite you. This is also a story for the ones who've said they don't understand the voice, but they want to. The ones who've asked how to stay, even when the darkness didn't make sense. The ones who listened without trying to fix. The ones who loved anyway. I'm not on the other side of healing, not yet. Even with help, this will be a lifelong battle. My mind doesn't magically quiet completely with love or medication or insight. I'll still relapse. I'll still have days when the voice feels louder than everything else. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday it could happen. That doesn't make me weak. What makes me strong is this. I'm no longer afraid to reach out. Because I know, without a doubt, there will be a hand that reaches back. I'm learning that survival is not the absence of pain. It's the refusal to let pain be the only voice that speaks. And I'm learning that light, even when refracted, still shines with the most beautiful colors. I have a semicolon tattooed on my wrist. Purple, because it was Sean's favorite color. He didn't get to finish his sentence, but I'm still writing mine. This story is especially for him. Thank you for reading my sibilance, the static in the marrow, the hiss that spits in my face, the voice I've lived with my entire life. Thank you for proving it wrong and staying. Parker Holliday.